The Guyana Energy Conference and Supply Chain Expo 2024 is in full swing. Joining us this morning, the Trinidad and Tobago High Commissioner to the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, His Excellency Conrad Enill. Good morning to you, sir, and welcome to the Now Morning Show.
Good morning, and thank you so very much.
Tell me, first of all, how has it been going across in Guyana in terms of the conference and the impact it's had on you personally?
The conference is very timely at this time. It's very timely simply because it brings together a lot of players and it focuses on a number of issues that are important in our understanding of a number of global issues. The first thing that the conference has done is that it has repositioned CARICOM or the Caribbean economies in a changing world. That's the first thing it has done. Because as you would recall, some time ago, CARICOM had, or the countries that make up the CARICOM region, had an experience with an event called COVID. And during that period, we found out that the rest of the world really and truly looks after themselves first, and then everybody else after. Emerging from that experience, looking forward, there were some issues with food security that we believe as a global space will occur in 5 to 10 years. Coming out of that, the CARICOM group sat down and created a strategy for moving forward with energy, food security, financial services, and a number of other things. In that context, Guyana had the responsibility for food security. Trinidad has the responsibility for energy. Barbados has the responsibility for financial services within the wider world. Suriname has some responsibility for coordinating some activities. And that's the focus within which this energy conference took place. The conference this year started with an understanding that globally, between the countries India, Britain, US, and China, they still have in their energy mix 30% coal, which is the most disastrous of the economic fossil fuels that we are looking at. The way it works is coal is the most destructive. It is followed by oil, gas, and then you go to renewables. Trinidad and Tobago, just to make the point, is in the gas business. So as we talk global issues and we talk global energy, while there is a focus on transitioning to green, that is to say, to reduce the carbon footprint, the reality is that where Trinidad and Tobago is positioned, where Guyana is, and where Suriname hopes to be, these products will be required for a very long period as the rest of the world tries to move from coal to the next less destructive of the fossil fuels.
Now,
so while
I just want to interject to ask, you've been mentioning CARICOM and the role that different people play, different countries play. I'm really curious about the possibility of collaboration between Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana, and what specifically came out of the conference thus far for opportunities for collaboration between the two states.
The collaboration for the two states goes beyond simply energy. Energy is one aspect of it. Trinidad has extra resources, and Trinidad's Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, in his address to the conference, has made available to Guyana all the resources that they need for monetizing the energy product. Additionally, it goes beyond simply talking about it. There is a memorandum of agreement between Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago that deals with a number of areas. Energy is being included. And there are a number of projects right now that Guyana is looking to Trinidad for assistance with. Those are currently being discussed between the Ministry of Energy of Trinidad and Tobago and the Ministry in Guyana. Some of those were determined during this conference between President Ali and Dr. Rowley, and those will come out in due course very specifically. But there is a collaboration going on as we speak, as it relates to some elements of the energy product, as it relates to some elements of what Guyana is looking at and what Trinidad has done. That collaboration has taken place.
Now, in your position and your perspective as the High Commissioner to the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, as well as the Ambassador to Suriname, can you share with us a little bit more about where you see our countries collaborating further outside of the energy? You mentioned that there would be room for it, but can you just give us a little bit more details in terms of, what are some of those collaborations that you see from your unique perspective?
Well, almost immediately, one of the areas that was discussed was the question of the experiment with the ferry. One of the things that we recognized is that as you try to create production for distribution to CARICOM, you need to get from the production country into the rest of the market. That is not as easy to do given the current infrastructure. So Guyana in particular, working with Trinidad in the first instance, is putting together infrastructure that can bring markets and production capabilities together. In fact, one of the things that President Ali in his address discussed was how they were looking at current investments to open up various modes in Guyana. Guyana has 10 regions, and at this point in time, they are putting together a transportation network that will bring the regions connected differently. And then after that, they're looking at connections between Brazil, Suriname, and those are intended to create zones of economic activity. And it is also intended to move product between the countries. So two things are happening. One, there is an understanding that you have to create product and services, and that's happening. Two, there's an understanding that you need to move it. And insofar as that is concerned, the current arrangements are not sufficient for the efficient movement of goods and services. And the private sector is being asked, the Caribbean private sector is being asked to participate in the expansion of trade insofar as developing logistics and supply chain arrangements for the movement of goods and services. It is in those spaces that significant private sector opportunities exist, because currently they do not. And therefore, the creation of those opportunities is what the governments, all governments, are looking to fast track, because there is an agenda item that seeks to reduce imports by 25% by the year 2025. And the support mechanisms, the internal mechanisms, the transportation mechanisms, the ability to move from one region to the next region seamlessly is in fact a critical component of the success of that agenda. And these things are being discussed. Teams are working in place. Investments are being made. Mm-hmm. And this is in fact happening as we speak.
Fantastic. Now, it's very interesting to me, listening to Minister Stuart Young's speech yesterday, and I'm listening to you this morning, mentioning the developed countries that would have shown their true colors, as we say, during the time of COVID, during the Russia-Ukraine war. We've been seeing all of these things happening, and we see as a reason to develop and continue to make sure that we have energy security. Should we be concerned about any backlash that may come as a result of CARICOM deciding we're going to stick together and do this internally?
I don't think so, because I think to a very large degree, if you look at what is taking place, some of those countries are looking to us in the Caribbean for their needs. Very recently, India has signed an agreement with Guyana to try and get product. The issue is that in many of the developed societies, they do not have what is required. You see, take Asia, for example. One of the things that we are seeing in Asia and Africa to an extent is that the middle class is basically upscaling They want better cars. They want better houses. They want houses that have air conditioning. They want things that only can be produced with fossil fuel inputs. That's part of the challenge of going forward. It is the developed societies that are in some instances creating the demand. And because they are creating the demand, they are asking for what we produce. We are in a good position. Trinidad and Tobago is in a good position because what is being asked for, there is not sufficient supply in the world. And as much as there is discussion on the environment and those kinds of issues, when you look at the contribution of Caribbean economies to the global issue, it is less than 1% in circumstances where the big players, China in particular, the US, Britain, those large economies to a very large extent, are really the ones that have to do things differently if it is going to impact the globe in any kind of way. So, no, I don't think that there's any issue. I think that they will continue to basically look to us for product for their citizens. They need to heat during winter and they need to cool during summer. That is not going to change. And the way that you do that at this point in time, sure, is through the products that we have.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that with us this morning. I just had to make sure we asked that question because I've been seeing the responses. I've been seeing the people posting about it as well. So I just wanted to make sure we clear that up. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning. Is there any other speaker you're looking forward to hearing from, particularly before the Expo is finished, before the conference and the Expo is finished?
No, the conference basically brings together policymakers, members of the industry, the private sector, and all the stakeholders in a conversation about two things: challenges, opportunities, solutions, next steps. So what the conference seeks to do is to be a melting pot where you can sit down and you can decide which part of the economic value chain you want to be engaged in. There's a significant amount of suppliers who are there who are basically suggesting that they have solutions to some of the issues. And I think that the conference of itself brings the players together, tracks the development agenda. I believe in June, there's going to be a similar one in Suriname. So we have Trinidad, we have Guyana, we have Suriname. And I think that once you attend these conferences, you get a clear sense as to what is taking place in this part of the world as it relates to energy and energy issues. One of the things, though, that Guyana has the ability to do because of its land space is basically also to look at a low carbon development strategy using its forest cover. That's a very exciting and interesting part of the equation because it means that even with global metrics as a Caribbean region, we both are going to be okay on the production side and on the carbon reduction side based on those natural attributes. So we're in a good place.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to seeing how the conversation continues to go and what comes out of it as a result. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and do enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of the conference.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much.
No problem at all.